Welcome to Aspiring Hollywood. I'm Luciano Saber. Today's show focuses on an elite group of Hollywood professionals that selflessly put a lot of sweat equity into the careers of their children. I'm talking, of course, about the moms and dads of young budding stars who, instead of soccer practice, are shuttled around to from audition to audition by their loving parents. Some of these dedicated people have worked in the business themselves, such is the case of Leona Evans. Leona, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm delighted.
You drove such a long distance to be with us. We really appreciate it.
Well, we live near the San Luis Obispo area, which is about 180 miles north of here, about 90 miles north of Santa Barbara. And we've been making this trip 3 times a week, maybe for the last 5 years, in order for Matthew to go to auditions and to work.
What compelled you to get Matthew into, was it his idea, was it your idea, how did it work?
That's a really good question. I think it was a combination. My background was Broadway theater. I did Fiddler on the Roof in the 60s for over 3 years. We worked at Caesar's Palace in Vegas, in New York, the first national company, and I also did How to Succeed in New York and on the road for several years. You name the musical, and I did it. After that, I spent a few years doing my own singing act and taking it on the road, actually all over the world. I had a midlife crisis, and I realized that what I was missing, aside from huge stardom, and the fact that at the time Johnny Carson, who was the biggest name in the business, was not calling me on a regular basis. But what I came to understand as I neared age 40 is that I had no self-esteem, no sense of self. I was as good as you said I was. I was as good as they said I was. If I was working, I was good, a good person. If I was not working, then I didn't feel my worth. And so I began to gravitate toward the self-help movements, which were really going strong in the 80s. And I decided to become a Unity minister, which it was not a quick decision. There was a 5-year period where I began to understand what people were going through who felt useless or worthless or purposeless. And I heard the teachings in what we call New Thought or trans-denominational metaphysics that you have a self that's inside of you that's greater than anything that people say about you. It's greater than any of your accomplishments or any of your failures. And it lives there, and you deserve to be alive, and you deserve to live a happy life. Once I started hearing that, I became aware of how I had inadvertently put myself into a place where I was aging, I was a failure, I wasn't useful anymore, I had nothing to give, and if I had nothing to give, then I didn't have a reason to live. And so I took all of that past experience and put it into learning how to give motivational lectures and be a Unity minister and remind people, as I wanted to have been reminded, that you're something regardless of whether you're working or not. You're something, and you're something valuable.
Well, you're in the right place, because at Aspiring Hollywood, the name itself says it all, right? Aspiring Hollywood. It's not an easy place to be.
It's not.
And that's why we decided to start this show to hopefully inspire the aspiring filmmakers and actors, and I mean we're all filmmakers, actors, producers, and to hopefully bring the right information to them. And this is just right on point, because you do have to feel confident. If you lack that confidence, then you might as well just hang it up, because it's not going to work.
I know, and I have a real distinction. Actually, I co-wrote a book called Spirituality and Self-Esteem. To me, there's a distinction between self-esteem and self-confidence. Self-confidence is a quality that we have within us that's built up over experience. I have experience doing something, you ask me to do something, and I'm confident that I can do it. Self-esteem is liking yourself whether you're doing something or not, feeling worthy and deserving. So getting back to the question you asked initially,
yeah, exactly.
When late in life I was lucky enough to have Matthew as my son, I saw in him some incredible qualities as a human being.
Now let me stop you there. We're talking, folks, of course, about Matthew J. Evans.
Yes.
Right? So I just want to make sure that the people understand who we're talking about.
Right, Matthew J. Evans, who is appearing now in Bad Teacher and is an almost 15-year-old actor, filmmaker, dancer, singer, actor, and bass player.
Phenomenal person. We just interviewed Matthew, and please click on his picture icon so you can see the interview with Matthew, because it's just something you really don't want to miss. He's a great, great person to watch. Somebody you should know.
He is a great person. I noticed as he started growing up that he was very shy and non-competitive, even to the point where he didn't want to go on an Easter egg hunt when he was 3 or 4 years old because he didn't want anybody to lose. And, you know, so I realized that there was a different way that a child could grow up in the business, different from the way I did. Now, if my parents had known this when I was growing up in the business, they would have applied these positive thinking principles, but they didn't know. They didn't know how I suffered a lack of self-worth. So I thought, if I can get Matthew out into the world to let his light shine in a way that's right for him, and if I may say, if it had been football, I would be a football mom or a soccer mom. It wasn't. But I was looking for a way to get passion in him. And we were doing, as Matthew said, I have a community theater up at Unity in San Luis Obispo, and it's been running for over 12 years. And a lot of it is family entertainment. And so we were doing Tom Sawyer, the musical. He was 4 years old, and I asked him if he wanted to take part in it. And he said, at that time, he said, no, I only do Christmas shows. I know, yeah, he was a once-a-year guy, and he was doing Christmas shows. But when he found out that some of his friends were in it, he decided he wanted. And as I said, he did musicals. He did Winthrop and the Music Man up at Unity. He did Chip, the marvelous teacup in Beauty and the Beast. He did the title role in Oliver. But when that woman came up from LA and talked about film and TV, there was a passion there. He was hooked. And as long as I had dedicated myself to helping him let his light shine in whatever way he wanted to, I decided to support him.
Yeah.
And so that's basically how it happened. He did a workshop, and the agents were invited, and he got picked up by an agent. Stage mothers, as you know, have a terrible reputation in the business. Hideous. I mean, when you say, and here's the young actor's mother, the agents just want to scrutinize you from head to toe, and with good reason, evidently. You know, Brooke Shields' mom, and I'm still hearing stories. I mean, Brooke Shields is in her 40s, and I'm still hearing stories about her mother ruining her life. So, but you have to be very, very careful as a stage mother. You have to be informed, but you have to be in the background. You have to be willing to do whatever the agent says, and you have to make sure that that agent is reputable before you are willing to do what they say. Fortunately, with Matthew, his agent then, who is his agent now, she knew him at the time. She recognized him, shall we say. They had a connection. Yeah. She believed in him. And I basically was there to serve him and to do whatever it was she said. If there was an audition, be there at 10 o'clock. All I needed was 4 hours lead time. Right. Because we live that far away.
I know, and again, that's incredible to me, especially with LA traffic to drive all that way.
Yeah, but if I could just get 4 hours lead time, it is very likely that we'll make it wherever we have to go. Downtown is probably the hardest, even harder than the 405, but here in the Burbank area, well, that's a piece of cake. I mean,
well, it's certainly worth it because Matthew is obviously very dedicated dedicated to his craft, and he's very talented. And you know, I just happened to have a meeting at ABC the other day, and we were talking about actors and who's a star and who's not a star, and it's the it factor.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And I looked at him as I was interviewing him, and he certainly has it. I mean, he's got that look in his eye that it's like, I want to watch this person, you know? It's interesting to watch.
He is. Yeah. And for me, as a stage mom, and I say this very proudly, the best thing I can do for him, or the best thing that any parent can do for their child actor, is to remind them that what they are really inside is better than anything they could ever pretend to be. So you've got to keep it real. You've got to be yourself. And when you are yourself, it carries with it the it factor. Where I made myself miserable over the years was I tried to be what people thought I should be. I put on false breasts, I had every hair color in the world, I had different color contact lenses, I could sing country music, even though it wasn't really my niche, so to speak. Yeah. I did whatever they said, and in those days it wasn't about keeping it real as it is now. I think there's a tremendous innovation in the business. It was about doing what sells, and I was willing to do that because I didn't really have a sense of self, and I wasn't getting a lot of motivational inspiration in those days. It was book, and do whatever you have to do to book, you know. So it was it's so much easier now for me to be able to say what you have to Matthew, because it's true. What you have and what you are is all you need. Don't ever worry about having to be something, because you're enough.
And when you are enough. That's Amy Linden's line, right?
Exactly.
You are enough. And also I want to say that once you do reach a certain level of success, don't believe your own publicity. You know what I mean? Because so many people get caught up in that Hollywood lifestyle, and you know, which, I think Matthew's going to be fine. He seems like a very grounded young man. But
that's one reason we don't live here.
Yeah.
The other reason is I have to work, but that's one reason we don't live here.
Yeah, but that's the danger, you know, of success. Success in Hollywood comes with a lot of hazardous material attached.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it really does, and it's so fleeting, and that's why with that inner sense of self, with that recognition that you are you and you're worth it, you're just as valuable if somebody applauds for you as you are when nobody notices you. Every audition is a learning experience, it's a stepping stone. You can learn something from either blowing it because you didn't understand it so you know what questions to ask next time, or overselling because you're too nervous. The idea is to just be who you are, take all of the technique that Amy can teach and all of the other wonderful coaches and apply it, and if it doesn't work this time, use it as a stepping stone. We say this or something better.
Well, that's great advice, and I'm sure a lot of parents out there who are thinking about introducing their kids to the acting world or the filmmaking world appreciate this advice from you. Thank you so much, Leona.
Thank you.
And thank you for Matthew. I mean, he's great.
I know. I am
really appreciate
very lucky mom. Thank you.
Thanks again.